Hello, hello. It's me, Logan, otherwise known as the Shiny Shiba. Today, we're bringing you a ramble / first impressions of the Gwolves HSK Pro 4K. This is Gwolves' new mouse, which I love very much. Which, spoiler alert, overall the first impressions are very positive for this mouse. I feel like it's a very great product that a lot of people should definitely consider purchasing. Whether it be this one, the Gwolves HSK Pro 4K, or their other mouse they're launching alongside this, the Gwolves HSK Pro Ace. But as for the two mice, I don't have the Ace here to show off. This is not a sponsored review, by the way. I pre-ordered this day one because I was so excited for it. But the Ace and the 4K are the same mouse. The only difference being between them is two things, or three things technically. One is the colors. Two is the weight. The Ace is slightly lighter. I guess there's four differences technically. The Ace is slightly lighter at 25 grams, whereas the 4K here sits at 29, which very slight weight differences. However, they are technically there. And the 4K, as the name suggests, is a 4K hertz polling rate wireless mouse. Here's a little dongle they send with it. Whereas the Ace just goes up to 1K hertz like every other mouse in the market. The other difference would be the price. The HSK Pro Ace is $120, I believe, whereas this one here, the 4K, is $180. They are the same shape, however, and thus I will be judging them basically the same, besides the fact that this is objectively better in one way, in that it has a higher refresh rate, or polling rate, and the objectively worse in another way, in that it is technically heavier, but again, the weight difference is very slight. And I would imagine also that this one has a lesser battery life due to its 4K hertz polling rate. So if that is a concern for you, you can choose to buy the Ace instead for that reason. I will say you can also turn this one down to 1000 hertz. Obviously, that's still a very helpful feature as many games struggle with 4K hertz for some reason. About the mouse's battery life, as we're talking about it now, I have yet to kill this mouse. I've been using it for 72 hours. I charge it every night, and I've yet to run into any kind of issues while playing in regards to the wireless performance or the battery life of the mouse. I will say that as for the wireless performance, I did run into one singular issue where one time I had something that looked like a spin out with my mouse. I don't know if it was related to the game. I have yet to see it again. However, I will mention that there was that one time, and I'm unable to confirm whether or not the mouse had caused it or not. But just as a heads up. So as for the mouse itself, we're going to talk about it really and how it lines up in the lineup here between the HSK, the standard HSK, and the M2K here. Again, none of these were sent out to me. I bought all of them. My main mouse up until now was the M2K. Unfortunately, this one is broken now. As we can see, I put an air cord on it, and I am very, very stupid. So I actually messed it up, but it was a no fault of the air cord or the mod itself or anything to do with anybody. I just messed up the install myself because I did not read the instructions thoroughly enough. I started doing them a little bit out of order and messed up a bit. Now it is dead. So that prompted me. The M3K is coming out soon now. You can't buy the M2K anymore to my knowledge. The M3K releases next year. So I'm stuck in this middle area where I don't want to use the HSK, but I need a new mouse, and along comes this. So the main difference between the HSK Pro and the HSK is that the HSK Pro, if you put them side by side, is obviously quite a bit smaller. And if we take a look over here at Elo shapes, we can see that this is the case. The HSK Pro is sitting here at a solid eighth less short-wise, but the main difference that we're looking at here in terms of size is the height right here. The height is significantly lessened on the HSK Pro, and that is a big deal for a lot of reasons, but here is the main one. This is the main crux of the review, or the first impressions here, rather. And this is the main reason that I think that this mouse is a significant upgrade over the HSK, and that is that the HSK is too tall. So if we come over here back to Elo Shapes and we look at how it compares to the M2K, the original HSK, we can see that it's quite a bit taller and the clicks on the HSK come down lower. The scroll wheels, surprisingly enough, they'll line up perfectly. I did not notice that until right now. But it's the click height in how it relates to the hump that causes the issue. So there's this part here on your hand. I'm calling it the 11 because if I do not know what this part's actually called, if you do know, please drop it in the comment section below because I really want to know, because I've been trying to discuss this with people for weeks. But this part here, which I'm going to be calling the 11, is like your inner knuckle basically. It causes issues with vertical movement with fingertip mice. So we're talking about doing like this, right? Doing this with your hands. So as we can see here, if I pull down the M2K, we've got quite a bit of motion before the hump of the M2K comes into contact with my 11s, with my hand. Whereas with the HSK, we can see here that there's not a whole lot of motion going on here. Why is that? Because the clicks are so low, if you want to do a relaxed fingertip, you're going to hit that hump, especially if your palm rests on the pad like mine does. If you claw it, this is not as much an issue. That is, however, if you claw it. This mouse, the HSK, forces you to have a claw fingertip grip. You won't run into issues if you have the claw fingertip grip, but if you have a fingertip style that is different from this specific one, you are going to run into problems with the HSK. Whereas with the M2K, you can claw fingertip grip it, it works just fine. You can also relaxed fingertip grip it, it also works just fine. How does this relate back to the HSK Pro? Because the HSK Pro, if we take a look here, it sits even lower than the M2K. It sits at the same height. The click height is still much lower, and we'll get into that later. But we'll touch on that a little bit later. But the height of the hump itself actually is the exact same, basically. So with the HSK Pro, you can do this relaxed fingertip grip and get away with it. You do run into some issues with it if it's very relaxed and you're using a 1-3-1 grip, but the issues aren't nearly as pronounced. And I feel like that issue comes from, again, this bit right here where the click height is just so low. And I feel like that is problematic for the shape of the mouse. And I would love if there was another HSK for them to consider raising the height of the clicks. As we can see, you can literally see the scroll wheel through the bottom, and there's a cutout for it because they want these click heights so low for some reason. And I just can't figure out for the life of me why they want it so bad. Other things about the mouse that I want to talk about, that's what I'll say about the shape. In terms of the main feature of the shape, which is that this hump is much lessened. It is significantly improved on the HSK Pro, and this will make a lot more fingertip grip styles work on this mouse like it does with the M2K. If you bought an HSK and did not like how it felt in your hand due to how you were gripping it, it's very possible that the mouse itself is just too big for the style you want to grip it in, and trying either the M2K or the HSK Pro will get that resolved for you. Another thing that I'll say about the HSK Pro versus the M2K is that as we can see here in the Elo Shapes comparison, the height of the scroll wheel is significantly higher on the M2K, and I'm not just talking about I'm not talking about with the click height involved. I'm talking about in relation to the click height, the scroll wheel comes up much higher than it does in the HSK and the HSK Pro. Both the HSK and the Pro have a very recessed scroll wheel. It's very recessed into the mouse, and I'm not sure why they're so insistent on that. It's okay, I guess, for most players. However, if you play Apex like me and you like to use your scroll wheel to jump a lot, then you're going to run into some discomfort with how recessed the scroll wheel is. It's not the worst thing ever. However, I will mention it because it would definitely affect some players a lot more than others. The next thing I want to talk about with the mouse is the side buttons. The side buttons are exactly as useless as I thought they would be. Nobody's using these in-game. Emphasis on in-game. In-game, if you are gripping your mouse properly, you may be able to get away with hitting one of them, but really, you are not going to be able to get away with hitting both of these comfortably without affecting your aim. I personally do not recommend the use of side buttons with a fingertip grip mouse. With a palm grip mouse, if you palm grip your mouse, you can maintain accuracy while aiming using your side buttons, but with a fingertip grip mouse, I just don't see how anybody could do that. So I personally do not care for the side buttons. However, I will say they are well implemented for what they are. They're very high up on the mouse, so they don't get in the way of most people's grip. And there's also a comfort groove here on the side. It's very hard to see here, and you can't see it on the Elo-Shaped website because it's just lines. But there is a comfort groove, subtle comfort groove, on the sides of the mouse, and that definitely keeps you from like rocking your finger back up onto the side buttons here, and it keeps it a lot more, it keeps the grip a lot more uniform, and therefore you don't run into as many issues accidentally hitting those side buttons. I have accidentally hit them like twice maybe in game, I will say that. But for that, I mean, I've just unbound my side buttons. It doesn't do anything in game anyway. But I have accidentally hit them about twice doing some like big flicks. Another thing that I'll say about the scroll wheel is that whenever I got my copy at first, it was a bit stiff. Over the last 72 hours, it's loosened up a bit. However, it was a bit stiff. I think I might have mentioned that earlier. Next thing I want to talk about really with the mouse is with all of the Gwolves products is that it comes with absolutely no shortage of goodies. This one came with even more. It came with a micro USB adapter, or 2 micro USB to Type-C adapters. It came with an extra cable. It came with like 3 sets of mouse feet. It came with 2 gaming sleeves. It came with, again, the replacement battery. Just tons of random things that a lot of people won't get any use out of. And of course, the Gwolves signature paintbrush and scented little bag thing. But yeah, overall, lots of goodies with this one. If you're into that sort of thing, then more power to you. But overall, I feel that I don't have any kind of use for those. Another thing here, looking at my cliff notes, I wanted to touch on the coating of the mouse. I feel zero need with this mouse whatsoever to put grip tapes on it. It did come with grip tapes. Forgot to mention that. One of the goodies was that it came with grip tapes for the mouse, and they're cut for the mouse. I don't feel any need for that. The coating on this one is actually quite good. Much better than the coating on my original HSK here. This is the Stardust version. So this is the first one they produced. That wasn't like the beta copy or whatever. And the coating on this one is okay, I guess. I used grips on it. I had skate tape that I put on it. But I don't really feel the it benefited from grips. I don't feel like this would benefit too much from grips. But the coating does not compare with the M2K's sanded coating. The sanded coating on the M2K is just perfection. I don't think coating's going to get any better than this. The sanded coating on the M2K is godlike. Another thing that I do want to touch on, just real quick, is the sensor height. The sensor height is sitting at there, which if I'm gripping the mouse, that is how it lines up. So it kind of lines up here with my pointer finger, and it's a little bit behind my clicker fingers. The M2K, because you can grip it further back of the mouse, has a bit more of an upfront sensor height. They're very similar. However, I do feel that the M2K is slightly further forward with how I grip it personally, which is very far back of the mouse. The sensor position is kind of just up to personal preference. I personally prefer a further up sensor position as it makes the wrist movements a lot more sensitive because there's a larger range of motion going on here. But again, that's mostly preference. And if you do want to see where the sensor height sits, it sits at about there with a very relaxed fingertip grip. It's under my fingertip now. But that's all I feel like I really want to talk about the mouse as for first impressions. Overall, very positive thoughts about this. No major complaints or issues so far. The only thing that I would like to see from a new HSK is potentially raising the click height a bit. Obviously, reducing the weight is always cool. And really raising the scroll wheel. If the scroll wheel came up a little bit and was less recessed, I feel like it would be more useful, especially for Apex players like me who scroll wheel hop all the time. And then, of course, if we get another one, I honestly think we can ditch the side buttons. They're nice for casual gaming and content browsing, but they really do not need to be there for competitive gaming. And I mean, if you're buying a $180 mouse, you're a fingertip mouse nonetheless, you're probably into competitive gaming or high-level aim exclusively, and that's what you're buying this for. So I would honestly say skipping out on the side buttons in the next one would be a good idea. But anyway, that's just kind of what I thought about it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. If you have your own HSK Pro, feel free to leave what you think about it. If you have any issues with your copy, speaking of issues with your copy, I forgot to mention this. Gwolves actually sent me the wrong color. I ordered the teal one, which is like it's the same color as this, except it's got blue here and blue here. They sent me the red one though. Not too big of a deal. I mean, I'm a little disappointed with it, but it's not too big of a deal just because it doesn't affect the performance of the mouse in any way, and I really don't want to wait to get a return. So I won't be seeking like some kind of return or anything, but just thought I'd mention it. I did get because I pre-ordered it and they ran into a lot of issues shipping out the pre-orders. I did end up getting the wrong color. If you have any more questions about the HSK Pro, because that pretty much wraps up what I have just to say off the top of my head, feel free to send me a message on Twitter. Have that linked in the description below. Feel free to come into my Twitch chat. You can always ask me anything about any of my peripherals there. I'm always happy to ramble about them. But yeah, also feel free to obviously leave your questions in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer every single one of them. Anyway, I will catch you guys later.